Six Nations Full Contact, folks. Netflix's new series based on the Six Nations. I've finished it. Did a first impressions look the other day. If you haven't seen that, check that out. Where I'd watched 4 of the 8 episodes. Now I have watched all 8 episodes. We're going to talk about what was good, what was not so good about the show, the ratings and potential for a season 2. Overall thoughts, maybe like favorite episode where they could have maybe focused a bit more light and whatnot. And yeah, you guys can let us know your thoughts. As I said, finish the show. If you haven't seen it, there might be some spoilers, so just be mindful of that. But I'm not going to go into any kind of great details. But yeah, I thought the show finished pretty well. Like in terms of the good things, I thought my favorite episode was probably the last one. I think it captured more than any other episode the feeling of the Six Nations. You had teams, kind of, maybe this is just me looking at it as a rugby fan, but the teams where they're at, where the potential lies for the competition to go in terms of winners and final log positions and whatnot. That just felt very Six Nations. Some of the other episodes, and I don't know if it's bad, it's maybe a little bit bad for me as a rugby fan, but maybe more aimed towards casual viewers, and I don't say that in a bad way, because casual viewers, you need to get casual viewers into the game. But some of the other episodes leaned way less into the Six Nations as a competition and way more into personal dramas, which is what reality TV does really well, right? So yeah, I prefer the episodes that go more into like getting that Six Nations feel, but I also like, getting to know some of these players. Like in particular, some of the episodes feature guys like Blair Kinghorn. I thought he was great. Spoke really well, seemed very honest and open, very refreshing compared to some of the times when we get, chats with rugby players, which can be a little bit vanilla. Fabien Galtier and Gail Ficou I thought were great, but maybe that's partly the translation because they're speaking French. It just sounds cooler than if they were just speaking English. I don't know. Sean Edwards, I thought, was great. I noticed they did, and it goes with meeting the target audience, probably, being largely English speakers. Rugby, it's an Anglosphere thing in many respects. But, they did tend to go with guys who speak English where they could, right? Like Sean Edwards and Sebastian. I'm not going to say his surname because it gets flagged as a swear word on YouTube, but Sebastian from the Italian camp. But he was great as well. Sebastian was great. He's got a great backstory. I'm not saying he's only chosen because he speaks English. But also Stephen Varney. So of the Italian squad, like you didn't get much of Michele Lamaro, like the captain. You didn't get much from Capozzo is like one of their star players. You got a couple of their English-speaking players. But as I said, both with kind of interesting backstories. Andrew Porter's episode was great. So yeah, some of them were really good. Some of them I didn't think went that flash. Like they tried to play up Stuart Hogg, Johnny Sexton, last dance drama for their kind of important clash. Both of them wanted to go out on a high in the Six Nations. Yeah, it was alright. I don't think it worked as well as some of the other episodes. Like Sexton having to talk up Stuart Hogg just felt very forced. And some of the other conversations do feel forced. Like Warren Gatland talking to his missus is like they've told them what to talk about, and it's like the least natural conversation you've ever heard. They got Lewis Rees-Zammit and Stephen Varney, who I didn't know went to school together, but they got them back together and they played a game of pool and they chatted and it was very awkward. So some of the times it works really well. You can really feel it, and some of the times it just feels a bit forced, but I guess that's reality TV kind of in a nutshell. Some things they didn't really make the most of, like they had Josh van der Fleer. They talked about him as being best player in the world at one point because I guess he was the incumbent world player of the year at that time. He had maybe one line. Yeah, they didn't really, they kind of teased it and then he was gone. They never really focused on him, so maybe they should have cut him from the show generally. I don't know, but I'm kind of maybe picking at straws. I don't think I am the ultimate target audience for the show. I mean, I still enjoy the show. If I'm talking about my overall thoughts, I overall enjoyed the show. It's rugby content, so I'm probably going to like it, even if it's poor quality, but this was pretty good. High production values, getting interviews with guys who I haven't heard interviewed before, because you usually get captains and coaches, but a lot more interviews and kind of background information. That was really cool. The fly on the wall stuff is alright. Changing rooms and planning and strategy and all that kind of stuff, that was pretty cool as well. But yeah, a lot of kind of person-to-person drama, which is what sells in reality TV. is maybe not my ultimate cup of tea. So I don't have a problem with that, in that when I'm a casual viewer of other shows like Drive to Survive or like the Michael Jordan one, The Last Dance, like I enjoyed those shows, and they probably played up to someone ultimately like me who for those sports is very much a casual fan. For rugby, I probably don't consider myself a casual fan. I'm probably a little bit more interested than a casual fan. So some of the stuff probably didn't speak to me as much as it did to casuals. And as I said, that's fine. That just is what it is. Everyone's going to get something different from the show. So ultimately, if the show does get engagement from people who aren't usually engaged with rugby, if it gets them involved a little bit more in the game, then that's fantastic. That's mission achieved. And in terms of ratings, I've seen some reports which haven't kind of got confirmed numbers yet, but apparently it's like been the number among the top 3 shows of Netflix streaming shows in the last month or whatever. So it seems to be doing all right. I know they are filming for a potential season 2, but it hasn't been greenlit just yet from Netflix, is what I understand. So hopefully we get a season 2 if the numbers are good. And by all accounts, it's being reported that, some of the kind of teething issues have been that first season with getting camera shoved in your face, maybe kind of being a bit smoother in season 2, which would make sense because it's going to be a bit foreign for everybody, in that first season when, you got camera crews coming in to record some, usually kind of pretty personal or, intimate moments where the coach is blasting you to get violent and smash some other guys. So, yeah, overall, I think it's a good show. Like I mentioned, overall, it's not targeted at what I would consider a hardcore rugby audience. But as I said, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think if you target it at a really hardcore audience, you're limiting your market appeal. So they need to target it to as many people as possible. Hopefully it gets some people into the game. If there's a season 2, I will certainly watch it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You guys let us know your thoughts. What did you think of the show? What was your favorite episode? Like I said, I think my favorite episode was the final one that gave the best kind of connection feel for what the Six Nations is for me. Some of the episodes, like the Last Dance, Sexton and Hogg, like the Wales episode, where they kind of had Bigger's point of view, Rhys Emmett's point of view, and then the Welsh squad was going to go on strike. It was a bit all over the shop, but I mean, that was just maybe Wales at that time. So there was more Welsh content than I expected, given that there were reports last year that Wales had kicked all the camera crews out and whatnot. So, yeah. For you guys who stuck around to the end, a little kind of bonus treat that I noticed during the viewing of Full Contact. Roman Intimak, great player that he is, got his shirt off, and he just so happens to have, well, he's got a few tattoos, but one of them in particular is in Chinese. I read Chinese to a degree, certainly enough to read the tattoo that he got, and it's not the greatest. It's not quite as bad as like saying chicken fried rice or anything like that. And I think what he's going for with the 2 phrases he's got is destiny and family. I believe that's what he's going for. But what he's kind of ended up getting is like destined relatives. So it doesn't quite have the same feeling as destiny and family. Destined relatives. Like, are we destined to be relatives? Maybe that's what he was going for, but I certainly showed it to a couple of Chinese native speakers whose reactions was, what? Was he? What? So, there you go. Destined relatives on old Roman Intimak. So, yeah, be mindful when getting tattoos done in a foreign language. Maybe check it with a native speaker before you put the ink into your flesh. If you want to see me speaking Chinese to prove the fact that I understand Chinese, I got a whole bunch of videos on a channel called 2 Cents on Tour. It's me going around China speaking to people. I probably end up reading some Chinese characters there as well because it's China and there's a lot of Chinese characters. But yes, you guys take care and talk to you guys again soon. See you later.